One of the groups of people that I really enjoy working with our canning communities are folks that are over, well, let's be kind, senior citizens, which technically I am too. But one of the things that I really enjoy about it is so many of them have had that experience of having canning, but often it became a burden because they possibly were like my mother and grandmother, that during the season of the summer and fall, they had to put up a lot of produce. They had a lot of things they had to put aside to carry them through the winter. I remember, I was still a pretty little kid, but I remember them being up before sunrise, working all day until it was like maybe 11 o'clock at night, and then getting back up the next day to do it all over again and put aside as much as they possibly could, both from what they grew in their gardens and also from what they might barter with from their neighbors. Well, being around gardening and being around canning and it being almost mandatory, as a rebellious teenager, I stepped aside and just didn't want to have anything to do with that. And so I was almost probably 35 before I came back to gardening and canning and things like that. And so I missed the opportunity of learning a lot from them. But now that I've returned, I've noticed that there are a lot of people who grew up with that gave it up once they didn't have to. But there are a lot of folks, for one reason or another, have had to change their living arrangements. They don't have the space, something we don't think about. They don't have the physical strength to do some of the tasks, like lifting the canner up onto the stove. And so by creating environments where folks can get together, share their skills, and share resources, they're able to come back to things that they loved but had to give up, which was making food, sharing food, and just feeling a little bit more secure. And through that whole process, I've worked with a lot of groups like the Center for Independence that help support people who have both physical and other limitations. And I've also learned a lot about adapting. And a lot of things that you think would have to be done standing for long periods of time can be done sitting in chairs and at tables. And there's no reason why not to. I remember one of my inspirations was my maternal grandmother. She had something which I was never quite sure of, some kind of possibly arthritis of some kind, but her legs were swollen terribly, and it was almost impossible to walk unassisted. But as she got older and it got to be summer, she had requested that they take one of those old farm chairs, the enameled ones, maybe you've seen them at least in TV shows, that have, they're usually where the seats were painted black and the legs and the backs were painted white. She had them take one of those and put a board on the bottom of it so the legs wouldn't sink into the soil. And then she would go out early in the morning before it got too hot, and she would hoe the weeds in the rows. And when she had reached as far as she could with the hoe, she'd call somebody and they'd come and move the chair for her. And several times I heard neighbors or family even asking her, well, you've got plenty of people around here, why do you do this? And her statement was, because I still want to be useful. So thank you for coming and joining for another one of Hal's ramblings and reflections. These will be supplemental to some of the other videos we're doing. So stay safe and enjoy canning, and be sure to share with your friends and family.